And I think Sam Bankman-Fried were in the unit that was one floor above mine. So in terms of like the setting, it's a fairly decent chance that the room I'm describing is similar to where Diddy is.
Sean Diddy Combs is facing a new lawsuit, this time not from one of the women tied to his infamous freak-off parties, or a former assistant caught in the web of his industry power, but from his own former cellmate inside the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. The man, whose identity has not yet been released publicly, has filed legal papers accusing Diddy of bullying and violating him behind bars, using the same patterns of control and force that prosecutors say the music mogul wielded in his lavish days of private jets, yachts, and shadowy after-parties. And now, those tactics allegedly followed him into a dormitory-style prison unit where celebrity fades fast and power is a very different kind of currency.
And the sentencing matches that, or did he just not make that connection?
No, he did acknowledge that the sentence that prosecutors were asking for, 11 years, was a bit of an overreach. The probation report recommended 60 months. So when you look at the probation report of 60 months, he comes up with 50 months. The prosecutors wanted 11 years behind bars. It's not quite in the middle, but it's a far cry from the 14 months.
This isn't just another tabloid bombshell. This is a federal inmate leveling one of the gravest allegations possible against a high-profile figure who's already serving a 50-month sentence tied to solicitation-related convictions. According to the suit, Diddy didn't just have a breakdown behind bars, he allegedly targeted his own bunkmate using intimidation, coercion, and ultimately force. The lawsuit outlines a chilling timeline that insiders say has already triggered internal reviews at the Bureau of Prisons, though no public comment has been issued. If these claims hold water, they could escalate from an inmate's testimony into new criminal charges, potentially extending Diddy's prison term by years and adding a darker dimension to his already staggering downfall. Now let's talk about where all this is unfolding. MDC Brooklyn, the same facility that's held names like R. Kelly, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Sam Bankman-Fried. If you're picturing a high-end white-collar pen, forget it. This place has been described by federal defenders, judges, and journalists alike as hell on earth. In 2011, the culinary artist Corjane White, the Jean Cordero, lost their lives in violent altercations inside this building. And it's not just violence. In 2019, a power outage froze the entire prison for days, leading to a $10 million settlement for inhumane conditions. The lights went out, temperatures plummeted, and the complaints piled so high, the FBI opened an inquiry. This is the world Diddy was dropped into last year after a lifetime of velvet ropes, VIP booze, and billion-dollar brand deals.
He sort of talked to me about the schedule for the day. He explained the important rules. He explained count time, because they have to, look, the jail's main two things. They can't lose you and they can't kill you. So they have to, count you, and they count you twice a day. Actually, 3 times a day.
You go to your bunk?
Yeah, you go to your bunk. At night, they'll come, you can be laying down. And in the morning, you can be laying down, but once a day, twice a day.
He's currently in a unit called 4 North, a so-called dormitory-style floor for high-profile inmates. It's a stripped-down space with 20 men sharing communal showers and waking to 6 a.m. head counts. Forget memory foam mattresses or Egyptian cotton sheets. Diddy sleeps on a thin pad over steel with no pillow. His lawyer described it in court as disgusting. They weren't exaggerating. Inmates have reported food crawling with bugs, waterlogged instant potatoes, and gray meat of unknown origin. There's one microwave for the entire floor, and although there's technically an air hockey table and a few TVs, no one's calling this place club fed.
So these are fluorescent lights.
Yeah.
And you're sleeping in that light. What was the first night there?
First night was very intense. Again, I'm, coming down off drugs. And by that time, the second time I went in, between the 2 times I'd gotten a terrible concussion.
And despite all of that, it's not the maggot-infested beans or the filthy bathrooms that have allegedly pushed Diddy over the edge. It's the power struggle. According to sources familiar with the floor's internal dynamics, Diddy's been throwing tantrums, loud, disruptive, humiliating ones, not over being locked up, but over being upstaged. His target, Luigi Mangione, the 26-year-old accused of shooting United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, who was transferred to MDC Brooklyn in December. In the twisted hierarchy of notoriety, insiders say Mangione has now eclipsed Diddy as the star inmate, and Diddy isn't taking it well. Guards have reportedly had to separate him from common areas multiple times after verbal outbursts, and according to 2 corrections officers who spoke anonymously to press, his name is now attached to more than 1 misconduct report inside the unit.
Are you concerned that Sean Diddy Combs could be sexually assaulted, violently assaulted, is that a thing? Because based on what was said in court, it feels like a thing.
So what does that mean for the lawsuit? If the claims of intimate coercion are proven true, this isn't just a stain on Diddy's record. It's evidence that the culture of dominance that defined his empire has survived even the collapse. Prosecutors at his earlier trial argued he maintained control through blackmail, violence, and manipulation. Cassie Ventura testified that he filmed intimate encounters without her consent and threatened to leak them if she ever left. Multiple women said he used substances, surveillance, and male companions to trap them in cycles of fear. Now we're being told that those patterns didn't stop at the cell door, they just adapted to a new kind of captive audience. But that's not the only eerie echo from the outside world making its way behind bars. According to legal filings, Diddy allegedly bought extra phone privileges while in custody, a claim that federal prosecutors seized on earlier this year when accusing him of trying to sway public opinion. Inmates say he was offering commissary perks in exchange for call time, which he used to place three-way calls, allegedly skirting monitoring protocol. His team has denied any wrongdoing, but the implication was clear. Even inside a facility crawling with surveillance, Diddy still knew how to work a room. And the tension isn't just behind the scenes. Physically, Diddy is barely recognizable. When he appeared in court earlier this year, reporters described a visibly thinner, grayer man. His weight loss was so stark that even courtroom staff did a double take. The man who once flexed with custom suits and million-dollar watches now slouches through court in faded khakis and prison-issued thermals. Journalists have speculated that the psychological wear may be deeper than just physical. Elizabeth Milner, who attended the hearing, said the transformation was astonishing. She added that he looked like someone who hadn't slept in weeks.
First time since the day of his verdict. Now, Sean Combs ended up being convicted of 2 charges. Those were transportation for the purpose of prostitution charges. He was let off on the more severe charges of trafficking and racketeering conspiracy. But
then came the reports of hoarded bread. According to prison advocates, inmates in Diddy's unit began stashing white bread under mattresses to avoid eating contaminated meals. A public defender even shared a photo allegedly showing beans crawling with white insects. The Bureau of Prisons pushed back, claiming the image was taken on a day beans weren't served, but their credibility has been tested before. In 2024, they admitted that 1 bag of beans in a shipment showed signs of infestation. Diddy's attorney, Mark Agnifilo, summed it up like this: "I think the food's probably the roughest part of it, but the real question isn't how bad the food is, it's what Diddy's been doing to maintain any semblance of control." And now, with this new lawsuit on the table, we're being forced to ask whether the tactics that built his kingdom have been repurposed for prison politics. The lawsuit paints a picture of targeted intimidation, of an inmate too afraid to speak until he was transferred out of the unit. Legal experts say if prosecutors pick up the case, Diddy could be facing new federal charges. If the cellmate's version is accurate, Diddy didn't just snap, he adapted. The allegation suggests a man who, stripped of fame, fortune, and staff, still found a way to assert dominance in the most primal way possible.
This is not a judge who this job was a upgrade. He took a massive pay cut. He was an accomplished litigator. He has a pedigree that most law students would envy. And he's a very, very brilliant man. And
here's the real kicker. This lawsuit might not be an isolated incident. According to insiders who've worked in MDC Brooklyn, there's an unspoken code among inmates, especially those in high-profile units. Complaining brings consequences. Speaking out without backup, that can make you a target for more than just ridicule. If Diddy's former cellmate is telling the truth, and if this culture of silence is as strong as insiders claim, how many others in that prison might have stories they're still too afraid to share? The cellmate's lawsuit isn't just a legal threat. It's a potential domino effect. One claim, one affidavit, and suddenly a man already buried under a 4-year prison sentence, a $500,000 fine, and a stack of civil suits could find himself in far deeper water than anyone expected. Diddy's team is already waist-deep in appeals, fighting to claw back any credibility after his convictions under the Mann Act. And now they're staring down the possibility of brand new criminal charges, this time for conduct after sentencing. Prosecutors had already labeled him a flight risk. Now they're circling back to ask, was that an understatement?
4 years, 2 months in prison.
wow.
He served a year. He gets some time. He gets 15% credit, so he'd be at 14-ish.
2.5 years.
So, and then he gets another 15% of the remaining.
Yeah.
He's out in 2 years.
Yeah. Should have stuck with the original guess.
I know.
Yeah. Why
I know.
Wow.
Because if they start peeling back what's been happening inside MDC Brooklyn, we might not just find one inmate's story. We might find a chain reaction. Judges denied Diddy bail more than once, citing concerns that he was trying to manipulate witnesses. That was before the prison assault claim. That was before whispers emerged about him offering commissary perks to fellow inmates for extended phone access, allegedly using three-way calls to reach people not on his approved contact list. Even prosecutors raised red flags about jury tampering, suggesting Diddy may have been trying to massage public opinion while pretending to follow court protocol. The pattern is disturbing. First, it was the women. Then, it was the witnesses. Now, it's his own cellmates.
We've talked about the fact that there's sometimes videos or photos or what don't get admitted to a case because they're
overly
prejudicial.
Right. This is getting admitted. Both sides.
It's definitely getting admitted.
Both sides agree. It's going to be admissible. The defense has a hurdle to jump. I will tell you that they vote in the end, and the vote may surprise you.
It raises a deeper question. When the illusion of control is all you've got left, what lengths will you go to preserve it? Diddy's reputation inside the prison has shifted fast. Sources from within the 4 North unit describe a man obsessed with status, reportedly furious that he's no longer the center of attention. Luigi Mangione, the 26-year-old accused of gunning down a healthcare executive, has overtaken him as the unofficial alpha in the dorm. That doesn't just bruise an ego, it rewires the entire social dynamic. One source said Diddy began acting out shortly after Mangione's arrival, complaining to guards, slamming common room chairs, and locking himself in the conference room where he meets with his lawyers. If that behavior tracks with what his cellmate alleges, domination, threats, control, then this lawsuit isn't just a sideshow, it's a warning sign. But it's not just status that seems to be slipping. It's Diddy's entire physical and psychological grip. His most recent court appearances stunned even seasoned reporters. Gone was the polished mogul in designer sunglasses. In his place stood a visibly gaunt figure with grayer hair and sunken cheeks, prompting a wave of speculation. Is prison breaking him? Or is this just another performance? Observers described him as astonishingly thinner, a shadow of the man who once threw million-dollar parties and ordered private jets like Ubers. When someone who spent 3 decades curating power suddenly looks powerless, it begs the question, what exactly are we watching unravel?
Well, I mean, inmates have procedures all the time. I mean, you have folks there with cancer, you have folks there with, serious other chronic diseases. And sometimes it does require individuals to have surgery even while they're on pretrial status. So,
because this doesn't look like a man simply adjusting to life behind bars. This looks like a man either cracking under pressure or calculating his next move with ruthless precision. The tantrums over another inmate's popularity, the alleged manipulation of phone access, the accusations of bullying and violence, these might not just be symptoms of decline, they might be tactics. If the only tool he has left is fear, he might be using it like he always has, targeting the vulnerable, pressuring the isolated, dominating whatever small corner of his environment he can still control. And if that's the case, then this lawsuit isn't just another scandal. It's a window into how far he's willing to go to stay relevant, even behind concrete walls. Because if the lawsuit is true, if he really assaulted a fellow inmate just to maintain control, then what else is happening that hasn't yet surfaced? What other lines has he crossed in a facility where cameras malfunction, guards rotate hourly, and silence is the price of protection? We might be looking at more than just a fallen mogul. We might be looking at a man who still believes he's untouchable. And the scariest part? The answer might be hiding in plain sight, inside the walls of MDC Brooklyn. Let's not forget where all of this is playing out. MDC Brooklyn is a facility where silence equals survival. It's where 2 inmates were fatally attacked in 2024 alone, where the dorm-style layout gives no privacy and even less protection. It's also where Diddy has been pacing the halls with his legacy unraveling. Every day, a reminder that fame doesn't mean immunity anymore. He's reportedly lost significant weight, his appearance altered so drastically by confinement that even courtroom sketch artists did a double take. The man who once ordered Cristal by the case is now asking for white bread and powdered potatoes because the beans might still have insects crawling inside them.
What would happen, he would definitely go out in his institutional jumpsuit. He would be handcuffed, leg irons, and what we call a Martin chain, which is the waist, the chains around your waist, handcuffs, and then what we call a black box. That would be a little mechanism that would go over the handcuffs to make sure that he is not moving around necessarily.
And yet, with all this crumbling around him, insiders say Diddy remains fixated on one thing: control. It's not about legal redemption or rehabilitation, it's about dominance. What does it say about his state of mind that he's allegedly more rattled by being outshined in a jail dorm than by a lawsuit accusing him of assaulting a fellow inmate? That he's more enraged by losing clout in a prison TV room than the possibility of ending up in solitary if the allegations are proven true? And speaking of fallout, there's something else we need to look at closely: his legal team. Behind closed doors, word is they're growing uneasy. Quiet shifts in strategy, late-night scheduling changes, and one key associate stepping back from media duties have sparked whispers that the defense is bracing for more turbulence. One source close to the case claims that if this lawsuit gains momentum and if more inmates step forward, Diddy's own attorneys may have to choose between standing by their client or salvaging their own reputations. Because let's be honest, when a case like this goes from courtroom to headline to criminal investigation, loyalty has a shelf life. And in the legal world, reputation is everything.
You know, it's the federal government building a case against you. Maybe you would go for the lesser offer, but again, that would be having to admit that he did something wrong. And the defense has always maintained that he is innocent, he has done nothing wrong, that this is just, these are just ex-girlfriends that are mad at, like just all these types of things that the defense is arguing. But
we also have to consider the broader picture here. This isn't just about Diddy anymore. If this lawsuit survives the next round of motions, and early indicators suggest it might, it could force the system to confront a brutal question: what actually happens behind the walls of America's most notorious detention centers? We've seen the headlines. We've heard about the power outages, the maggot-infested meals, the broken surveillance camera, but we've rarely seen one of the inmates, especially a celebrity inmate, get accused of doing to others what he was accused of doing on the outside. If that loop closes, if prosecutors decide the behavior is part of a lifelong pattern, then the consequences won't just be measured in years, they'll be measured in precedents. The Bureau of Prisons hasn't made a public comment on the lawsuit yet, but it's only a matter of time, and when they do, we'll be watching closely. Because if this case goes forward, it could crack open the doors of a place already under fire for staff shortages, sanitation issues, and unchecked violence. The last time that facility made headlines this big, it was because of a power failure that left inmates freezing for days and resulted in one of the largest federal settlements for inmate mistreatment in U.S. history. Now, with a high-profile lawsuit alleging abuse from another inmate, the public attention is back. But the spotlight isn't just on Diddy. It's on the people who run the prison, the ones who guard it, and the ones who've let this kind of dysfunction become routine.
That he has, with others, and just because no one else has been charged, which normally in a RICO case, you would have others charged. It was a statute designed to get mob bosses, trying to get at criminal behavior that's like a web of criminal behavior that you can't necessarily prove, like the one thing or the statute of limitations expired on the other thing, but you're just showing this bad guy who's operating what's clearly an enterprise that over and over engages in criminal problems or criminal acts.
And we need to keep one more thing in mind. If this lawsuit ends up in a courtroom, it won't be a quiet affair. This won't be some closed-door negotiation with NDAs and sealed testimony. This would be a federal civil trial with cross-examinations, depositions, surveillance footage, and witnesses under oath. That means there could be records, phone logs, incident reports, and first-hand accounts, possibly even from other inmates. And if any of it aligns with the allegations already made, Diddy's current sentence could look like a prelude. Judges don't tend to look kindly on inmates who commit new offenses while already serving time, especially when those offenses echo the very behavior they were convicted for. One thing's for sure, if this lawsuit goes to trial, it won't just be Diddy in the hot seat. It'll be the entire prison system and every inmate who's ever been too afraid to speak out. So what do you think? Is this the final unraveling of a man who built his empire on control, or just the beginning of an even darker chapter? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget, secrets never stay buried for long. We'll be watching. Until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and keep your ears open.